Good afternoon. I am Reverend Debra Frazier Sermons, and today is Thursday, September the 30th, 2021. And it's my pleasure to be here with Reverend Geraldine H Singleton to interview her regarding her life, her story, her reality in Alachua and in Alachua County. Welcome, Reverend Singleton.
Thank you.
Let me begin with a little background. The oral history that we're conducting is part of the Alachua Newnansville Subcommittee project, which falls under the Alachua County Truth and Reconciliation Project. We are partnering with the University of Florida, Samuel Proctor Oral History Program, and with the Alachua Public Library. So we will begin today with a little bit about your background. Tell us your full name and where you were born.
My full name is Geraldine Ardelia Howell Singleton. I was born in Brooker, Florida, but actually in the community called, I think now we call it the Monteoka Brooker area, so that's where I'm from. And that was where I was born, in the Brooker area, and that's where I lived for several years prior to getting married.
What were your parents' names, and what did they do for a living?
Okay. My dad's name was Winford Alfonso Howell, A-L-F-O-N-S-O Howell. Mm-hmm. And my mother's name was Lou Gladys, it's L-U-G-L-A-D-Y-S, McAllister Howell. Okay. My dad was born in Baxley, Georgia.
Okay.
And my mom was actually born in Brooker, the same as where I was.
Okay.
And I'd like to reflect back just one moment, if I might, because my grandmother was instrumental in our lives as children, not only for us as the family, but she was a midwife in the Brooker area and all around Alachua County, and in the Cross area as well. So that's a footstool for us, because she actually taught. And she always had us have excellent ways of meeting new people and people that came to pick her up to go to their homes. So we had an area that we were always respectful of all people at all times. And it was just not the African American people. She delivered babies for the other race people as well.
Awesome.
Yes.
Do you have a picture of her?
This is my grandmother's picture.
Awesome. That is outstanding that you all have that documentation of that legacy.
Yes.
Not only in memory, but you have a picture to capture her, to pass to the next generation. Mm-hmm. What did your parents do for a living?
My dad was a farmer. And in addition to being a farmer, over the years, he began to work at the University of Florida in now we call it the janitorial area. I'm not sure what they called it at that time. Mm-hmm. But he was the administrator for many of the persons that worked in the area. He was the supervising person for many years. And if I would try to recall the years, it would probably be about 20, 25 years.
Wow.
And in addition to that, he was a pastor of Paradise United, he was a member of Paradise United Methodist Church here in Alachua, he and my mom, for many, many years. And of course, this is my mom when she was young.
Look at her. Beautiful woman.
And this is my mom before she passed. And Mama was 88 years old. And she lived in Alachua here. During my mother's working time, she actually worked as a general cleaner at the University of Florida. Had several children, including many of us, because I'm one of 12 children.
Okay.
And being one of 12, I have to go down the number of us, but out of the 12 children, all lived except for several of the boys. And several of us are presently living now. Mm-hmm. My mom eventually went to work at Takachali, but I think the name has changed for the building now. And then from there, she met a person at Santa Fe Community College. At 60 years old, she enrolled at Santa Fe, graduated, and went to work in the Alachua County school system. So she taught in that system for several years prior to retiring. And my mom retired probably much as I did. Mama was probably about 80 when she retired. So a long history. According to Dr. Portia Taylor, that's still at Santa Fe, she's retired now. She said Mama was one of the best students she had ever had in her life. And that's why she was able to go to work easily. So that's how she finished her work. And of course, she was a total mom all the time.
She did a total different career change.
Different career change, totally. Yes.
At age 60.
Yes.
Not only did she succeed, but then also to be in the classroom for that number of years.
Yes. And a lot of the young people are adult persons now, and some of them I know now because they were children when she was teaching them.
Wow. Look what she modeled, not only for her children, but for others.
Absolutely. Yes.
That you're never too old to learn.
Never.
And you could always start another career.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Now, you said it was 12 children.
Yes.
And what are their names?
Well, I will go down the listing because if I don't do that, and this, of course, I didn't tell you, that's my dad, and that's the history of my dad.
Oh, okay.
That we honored him. And the 12 children. My oldest sister is Mervina Howell Brazil. She lives near Miami. And there's Williams that lives here in Alachua. And of course, there's me, number 3. I'm going by birth order.
Okay.
Mary Lee is my sister that lives in Gainesville. And if I go back on years, Singleton was born in 1933. Inez was born in 1934. I was born in 1936. Mary Lee was born in 1939. Ernest E. Howell is my brother, born in 1943. Mervina Howell Banks was born in 1948. Michael Howell was born in 1995. And our baby daughter.
That's a big gap.
Yes, but our baby daughter is Joyce. Joyce finished school here at Alachua. And Joyce passed. She's the only one of us that passed. I bought a picture of her because we loved her so much.
Yes.
And we did not expect one of the babies to pass.
Yes.
But this is her picture. And this is a part of her service.
Oh, look at her. Beautiful.
Beautiful. She was a teacher in Maryland. And this is the 2 of us that we will always join together as older and younger.
Okay.
Okay.
And love taps.
Love taps, love taps. So,
that was a big gap, between the children and then Michael and your younger sister.
Michael is 5 months younger than my oldest son. So there is a gap.
Yes.
So there were some marriages going on in there as well. So we will fill that in.
Okay. What do you remember anything about? You mentioned your grandmother. Was that your maternal grandmother or paternal?
From my mom.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you remember about your paternal grandfather?
My grandfather was born in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And from North Carolina, he moved to Brooker. He and my grandma married, and there were 3 families with the 2 of them. He had a family, and my grandmother had a family, and then they had a joint family. So that was was a good group of persons, and I probably brought some of that information with me because I don't ever like to lose that. I like to keep up with it because I am a resume keeper. I probably pick that up. And I probably
but that's important for future generations.
It is, absolutely.
Especially when you stay in a close community.
Yes.
You don't necessarily want to date and marry your cousin, but if you don't know.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And so we had many, many cousins and still have many cousins. I was trying to find that piece on my grandmother, but I don't know whether I misplaced that, but I really wanted to keep up with that for whatever reasons, because so instrumental in our lives. And in fact, she taught us how to pray. because if she said if we did not learn to pray and did not learn to do well, we would not do well in our lifetime. So she taught us.
That's a true statement.
So she taught us what we were to do.
Yes.
And being taught what we are to do, then we knew exactly how to go to the Lord, especially when we were looking for, I call it bonuses.
Yes.
Because sometimes we're in job situations.
Yes.
And the bonuses are not there. But eventually, I feel that we are successful when we know how to go to the Lord. And that has been a part of that. And I have not forgotten that. I always remember that because through the years, and I will get to that, I'm sure, I worked until I was 85 before I retired. So we would get to that part of it.
Okay, okay. What about your father's parents? What did you know about them?
My father's parents were all educators. They were all teachers in Georgia. Okay. And
near Baxter,
Georgia.
Okay.
However, my dad's mother died at 33 years old, and she had 6 children. And having had 6 children, it meant that my father and those actually had to go to work.
Yes.
So my dad missed that early education, he and his brother, because they migrated to Florida to work.
Okay.
And the Tung Oil Corporation, that's it was in Brooker, Florida. It's no longer there anymore, but that's where they had worked. Okay. And then they would go back to their home to take support to their dad with the children. Okay. So we were workers, always had been, we still do.
That ingenuity and resourcefulness was planted early, and you did what you have to do to survive.
Oh, yes. No problem.
Where did you attend elementary school, middle school, and high school?
Elementary school was attended here in Alachua. We started in Brooker. We had a Brooker school.
Oh, okay.
And that little school was we walked to and from school, of course, every day. That's after we'd done chores at home. Okay. And we did chores after we got back from school. And then at 7th grade, we transferred to Alachua County Training School. Okay. Here. And this is a copy of my diploma.
Wow.
That it's
from ACT?
ACT. And it shows Alachua County Training School.
Wow.
So
you just don't know what a unique specimen that is.
It's precious.
Yes.
Yes. Very precious.
And very rare. You might be one of few who still has that document and preserved like that.
Yes, I do have that. And from here, I was admitted to Bethune-Cookman College. I graduated in 1954. And I'm trying to find that. I do have a copy of my admission ticket to Bethune-Cookman College, somewhere in this pile of everything.
Wow. What was your major at Bethune-Cookman College?
Business education. However, I was only there for a year. Because prior to in school, we all had male friends at home. Yes. I was young, and so I got married. Yes. Very young. Mm-hmm. I was 17, and over the period, by the time I was 24, I had given birth to 4 children. Okay. And so I was a stay-at-home mom. Okay. And being a stay-at-home mom, I took care of neighbors' children, because I had Bible studies at my house, and birthday parties, and everything you do in the country. And after that, my life took a turn. And that turn meant that I decided that after the children were old enough, I would get a job. And that was a busy time. In order to work what we call successfully, we did housework. Okay, so I babysat for, this is hot.
I know.
I babysat for a year. And then after that, I decided that wasn't what I needed to do. It didn't satisfy my need to be doing something differently. And after that, I decided that I would make a difference. So I started work. I started work at Takachali. That was a place that hired many people. $125 a month was my income. And after that, I went to the University of Florida. Having not been there, did not type well because we had the keyboard typist, but I knew I could do some things. And applied to the Medical Records Department at the University of Florida. And I worked there for 2.5 years.
Okay.
And after having worked there for 2.5 years, then I moved to Tigard Hall, the University of Florida. So those are names you probably know very well. And at Tigard Hall, I was responsible for giving information to students, directing them to classes, directing them to areas that they could be successful. And one day the light bulb came on. Why am I doing this? If I can help them get through their classes, I can too.
Yes.
There was no money for me to go to school because there was not money for black students to go to school. However, I was able to go. My mom and my dad borrowed some money for me to be able to pay tuition because I had 4 children.
Right.
And with the 4 children, I got them ready for school, and I started out in the fall. And having started in the fall, I never stopped. I kept going. And don't ask me how I took care of 4 children and a husband. I don't know. But this husband, we were married 57 years.
Wow.
Wonderful man.
Wow. Look at him.
Worked very hard to take care of his wife and his children.
Yes.
He was a farmer because we own a farm. And we still have a farm in Montioka.
Okay.
And in addition to having the farm, he took up the responsibility to become a truck driver. And after that, he migrated into doing septic tank work.
Okay.
He was one of the only black persons in Alachua County that we are aware of that was licensed to be where that he can install septic tanks. So our lives were farming and septic tank work.
Right.
So our days never stopped.
Right.
We were constantly working. And of course I was working.
Yes.
But it works because we decided that if we're going to be successful, and we have these babies, and we're going to be successful, we're going to have to double and triple everything we do.
Right.
And that's what we did. In 1960, we bought a little house in Montioka. That's when I moved initially from Brooker. The little house was 2 bedrooms, no bath, and back porch, front porch, but very comfortable for us. Because I guess I call it, I can imagine what I need, and I can work with what I need, and I can do that very well. So in that little house, again, we worked with our children. We taught them what's right. We walked to church because many times we didn't have transportation, but we would never miss church. I made the meals for the ministers on Sunday afternoon. And then when they had children, our children were all working together and playing together. We went back to church again in the evenings. So it all worked well for us. But within that, I decided that I wanted to move again into something else. Work was still going on, satisfactorily okay. But going to the University of Florida, my skills were actually determined that I was, am, will be always a great student. So with that, I was in classes that I was involved with teaching students, and they were not like me, because I was the only person in many of the classes, but I taught because that was a privilege given to me, nothing I earned. It was actually a privilege given to me. And in that privilege that was given to me, and with children of our own, we adopted a son.
Okay.
He's Derek. And we had a young lady that I met later on in life that lived with us as well to go to school. And then from time to time, while being enrolled, being involved at Santa Fe Community College, I brought other students home with me. and they lived with us while they were in school.
Wow.
So we always had a house full. But the house had gone beyond 2 bedrooms by then.
Okay. I was going to ask where you still the 2 bedrooms.
The house had gone beyond that. Because my husband also was a builder, and my dad was a builder.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
At the church here, Paradise,
Yes.
my dad did most of that work that you see there, from the building to the ground. And many of the churches in Alachua County, my dad actually did the work on those. Very, very efficient.
Very, very, very good work at Paradise.
Very efficient.
Yes.
I do want to share with you, if I'm able to, and then I will move from this area to some community kinds of things I've done while I was all together. But my son, Derek,
Derek is the adopted son.
is the adopted son. Now, he was not adopted until he was 18. But he lived with us the entire time. And he did a description. He said, I want to do my mother's description for a class at P.K. Young. That's where he was attending. He started out after the introduction, and he said, descriptive words for my mother. And I'll try not to do all of them, but I'll say of them. Academic, active, aggressive, alert, conservative, curious, determined, dominant, generous, healthy, honest, independent, tactful, trusting, thorough, businesslike, cautious, resourceful. This is a kid.
Yes.
Forceful, clear-headed, gentle, broad-minded, loving, soft-spoken, modest, competent, excellent, efficient, loud, slender, fashionable, fast, but yet relaxed. That was a description, and it's here by pages.
Wow. So you kept that all of these years.
Yes.
What an honor you should feel for your son to have described you in such a way.
Yes, he did that. And of course, he did a background here. And the background has several things, but he did this background like an animal. And that was his mom. He said Mama was constantly going.
Oh.
And then he did a cluster. And that caught me by surprise, because that meant he was watching me as well as being a baby.
Yes.
Because he's 10 years younger than my youngest son by birth. And in that cluster he put one of 11 children, parents, Alphonse and Gladys Howell. That's Geraldine H Singleton. Then he said, university educated at Santa Fe. She's a family. She's a husband. Has 4 children, 2 love children, 2 daughters-in-law, 1 son-in-law, 3 grandchildren. She's a coordinator of career development and instruction cooperation. She works at Santa Fe. She's on the school board for Alachua County, and she is an academic instructor.
Wow, he broke down everything for the family.
He did.
Your life, basically.
He did, and he put a timeline there. So with that timeline for his mom, she was born in 1936. She got a doll from her uncle as the best gift she had in 1942. She had a brother, and I didn't mention that. I had a brother that was hung in a swing. He was out swinging in the back, and the rope, somehow the slat went at the bottom, and his neck got caught, and he was hung in that swing, and that was in 1948. And then, of course, he went on. Mama goes off to college, and then he says, Mom stopped college and got married. And then in 1956 and 1960, she had children. Now, he has all this written here.
Yes.
And then Mom started school in 1955 and through 1970 to help raise the children. She started working efficiently in 1973 with the school system. In 1975, she began work at Santa Fe Community College. In 1983, she became a minister. In 1985, she was ordained as an elder in the AME Church. After 5 years of traveling to Orlando for ministerial school on Saturdays. And that's an ordination picture of me.
Oh, look at that. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And I still carry that ordination, of course.
Of course.
And then he said 1985, she was appointed to church. And at that particular time, he said, Mama was pastoring, she was working at Santa Fe, and attending school all at the same time.
When you were attending school, was that for an advanced degree?
Advanced degrees.
Yes. Oh, advanced degrees. Tell me about those.
Advanced degrees, of course, I started out with less than a bachelor's, and went to Santa Fe Community College and received an AA transfer to University of Florida. And the rest of my time was at the University of Florida.
Okay.
And always took courses, but usually full-time enrolled. Don't ask me how I did it. I don't know. but it happened. And so, but anyway, he always thought Mom was a businesswoman. And of course, he tried to describe me, but we won't go into that. But he said she was a bucking bronco, always moving. Now she's here. Next she's gone. This active woman keeps her body so the size she had, it steadily holds.
Wow, wow, wow.
As a kid.
But he is very descriptive of you.
Very descriptive, and he was young.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that. And of course, there was some other kinds of information.
But going back, even adding to what he said about you and how industrious you were, your advanced degrees are what? You have a master's degree?
Yes, master's degree in the education department.
Okay.
And also I had second master's in the education department, and then I started with a doctorate. I did not finish the doctorate.
Okay. Doctoral program in education also?
Education also.
Okay. Leadership?
Leadership, and also beyond that, I was working to become a college president.
Wow. Explain that. Share more with us about that.
I was actually accepted through Santa Fe Community College by the president to go off and study the various schools.
Okay.
In the summer, we studied in Illinois. Never been in Illinois. Freezing, but we had to study. Classes were going on. And in the winter, it's winter, and in the summertime, we also studied. We had, I call it reverse kinds, hot or cold. We had to do both, because if I were to go for a president, I don't know which college I would have chosen.
Exactly.
So we had the training in all areas. So that was flying out to those various schools. In addition to taking another course at the university in Tampa.
Okay.
Because I was working with students that had problems with English and grammar, and doing that, I needed the further training.
Okay.
So I went there for that training on weekends.
So you're traveling during the week?
Yes.
And you're getting educational training on the weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was also going to Tallahassee because working with students that had lack of abilities, the funding was not what we would like to have had in Gainesville. So I guess I was hitting doors, if I call it that, checking doors to see who could help us.
Okay.
And in doing that, I did meet some people that were able to help with funding for the persons I was working with.
Okay, good.
And that made a difference, because a lot of times there was just not enough money, or it wasn't available.
Yes.
I'll say it like that. So, but I had a lot of help.
Good.
But I had to drive to Tallahassee. So I would normally leave home at night, 1:30, 2 o'clock, be in Tallahassee for a business meeting at 8 in the morning, take care of that, and come back to Santa Fe. All a part of life.
Wow.
But I never tired.
How long was the training, that developmental program that you were in terms of that would prepare you for college president?
Oh, we're in the workplace every day. Because number one, I'm honest, I'm direct, I take care of business. You know, if there's something to be done, I'm going to do that the way it's going to be done. I had a staff that I was responsible 2 and 4, and I call it 2 and 4 because with a staff, I'm not going to be one that I'm going to be saying, you must do it, but the responsibilities are here, and I expect you to do it. Yes. And I will not be asking you to do that because you already know that. But they knew that I was very honest. And with that, there was no problem in getting anything I needed to have done because staff must do much that I was not able to do. In addition to that, I was also teaching a class. So in teaching the class, I had to prepare for that body of students I had to have them ready for their final exam, so to speak. So it was just a turn all the time, constantly moving all the time. But I was satisfactorily happy to be able to do that because many of the students had, their skills were lacking. Right. And with their skills not being in place, it meant that I was responsible to help them. Not because I had the degrees, but I remember being a farm girl back in Brooker. And so I never forgot that. Because had my parents not been ones to say, this is what you would do, I would not have known to do that. So I traveled at night as well. What did I do at night? I went to the various schools doing financial aid applications for students. Hawthorne High School, also Gainesville High School. Any of the high schools in Alachua County, I did those in the evening. I had a person that worked with me. She would go with me as well because it was a night travel. Okay. However, and we turned that into daytime work as well. So the college, we started a college program that dealt with students that were finishing high school, had not had the background yet for college, but we would bring them in for a 6-week program called the College Experience Program. Okay. In the meantime, I had 8th grade students that I brought in from Stark, because Alachua County covered Stark as well. And then I would bring those students in during the day for a day at college and get them acclimated to college and how we go through classes. So we would work with them for doing that. And the other students would come into a 6-week summer program called the College Experience Program. And over those 6 weeks, we taught English, we taught math, we taught college survival, how you actually make it through the college. And also we had a program, I call it Hitting the Nicks for girls and boys, young men and young ladies. Because at the time, now we're talking years now, and we were not fancily dressed as the students are now. So if you were involved in a program that I was involved in, you looked the part of being a college student. Okay. So that meant from head to feet. Now what happened after you left, that was kind of up to the parents, but when you came back to class, you came back in college style. Okay. And upon graduation, many of them received full scholarships. And the full scholarships meant that their tuition was paid for. Wow. And this is one of my students. Wow. That he was a marvelous student, and I had several others. But you see, they had given me flowers. Yes. So they said I was tough, but I was lovingly tough.
That does make a difference.
But my students, they were wonderful students, young men and young ladies. And of course, this is another. I just pulled a couple of the pictures out. That's another picture. Wow. But
you did a lot. I'm trying to figure out how were you able to balance all of this in addition to being a wife and mother?
You don't balance, you just do.
Okay.
Okay. Because when I would get on a plane to fly, wherever I was flying, I knew that I had taken care of responsibilities at home because clothing had to be done. Prior meals had to be made that my husband could finish, and anything that kept the house going. And I guess I would say that I didn't sleep much. I didn't need to because I had to keep a house going. I had to keep laundry done. I had all of those things that you do. And though I had someone taking care of my laundry, I would just take it to them. But it's a never stop. I can decide that I want to be lazy. I didn't have time. Because all my kids have gone to college. So that's a race over. So if I'm getting them ready for college, I've got to be ready for classes as well. Right. And they have to do papers. they also had to be sure, I had to be sure that they were passing everything.
Right.
That's why they said I was tough, and yes, I was tough, because we felt that if we're going to support you in school, you're going to support being there. And that means that you do not bring home any grades that were not passing grades,
yes.
unless there had been a problem. If there were a problem, then we would seek it otherwise. Mm-hmm. But it was just a need be for all of us. We were a family, all of us. And so we worked hard for that.
Before we transition to something else, what became of the college presidency? How did that go?
I did not complete that.
Okay.
Because I knew that I would not leave a husband home of 50 years of marriage, mm-hmm. even though I took the training. Yes. And I experienced the training. I loved the training. I actually liked being involved with other people in other places in other countries. And I also taught in Hawaii while during that time. Wow. So that's experience that I felt that I could bring back with me and use with students. But I know I would not leave a marriage to become a college president, because that meant I'd have to move my family. Right. And we were not going to do that. And I said to the president, I like this experience. I don't know what life holds for me. So it may be sometime that I can do that, but I'm not able to do that now. Will I still have the training? He said, of course. So I continued with the training. Yes. And that was a great move, because I learned so much while I was out, and did some production of some papers while I was out as well, and some write-ins. And I worked on some budgets that taught me how to work budgets if I had become a president. So there was a lot of work going on. The higher level education training mm-hmm. has served you well in other ways, hasn't it? Yes. Yes, definitely. One of the ways that I've been, and I'll just say one of the ways, I don't know how much time I have. Yes. There's a women's club that the Lord gave me a bridge for it. This is a booklet. I was working with students in the community, in the Monteyoka community. Mm-hmm. Our students were not doing as well as they could do, because sometimes they didn't have the support. And sometimes the grandparents were rearing them, and so forth and so on. So we put together, and I won't take all the credit for it. However, this was established in 1976. Wow. That the Lord had given me a view of what we should do. Okay. And with that view, we have persons that's teaching in the Alachua County school system right now. A young lady that's I think she has a promotion above principals and persons now in Alachua County. Okay. I won't call her name. And that's me when I was young and still had a lot of energy. That's the person had passed. She was a lady in our community, and she was an older mother, but she had passed. And so we had designed this for her. And within this booklet, and if you would go through it, there are names and there are students and there are persons that have worked tremendously in the community. And believe it or not, we are still doing that. Excellent. We're still doing that program right now. And it's called Unique Women's Club Incorporated, Serving Others Unselfishly. And so that's what we do. That's a part of my life now, right now. Is that just limited to the Monteyoka area, or does it serve the greater Alachua County? It serves Monteyoka area more specifically, mm-hmm. but now we're reaching out to other students, because we have students at Gainesville High School. Okay. We have them at Santa Fe High School, and some at Eastside High School, so we're reaching out more. We would love for it to be just in our community, mm-hmm. but our students are reaching out, and we should as well. Yes. And this year we had given, and of course we have some rules and regulations, but we given a scholarship, and the young man decided that he didn't like to be away from his parents, and he'd gotten a full scholarship. Wow. So he sent his check back with the understanding that he would actually enroll in the next term, and then we would resend that check to him again. But he did not hold on to that check. He sent it back. And so those are the kinds of things that we encourage with our students. Yes. If there is a problem, if something comes up, just let us know, mm-hmm. and we'll work with you. We do encourage students to be the best they can be. Mm-hmm. We don't need to waste our money, because I can't, we pay monthly mm-hmm. that they are able to get these scholarships. So it's not that we're going out reaching for money. Right. We are paying in money to keep these kids going. And I will mention it's not a lot of money, but we have at least $10,000 per year to give the students. So
that's very generous.
So we
sacrifice on you all's part.
It is
for the greater good.
It is, because many of the ladies, there's two persons older than I am in the club. One is 92. The other one is 87 or 88, and I'm 85. And then the ages drop down. So it's not people on jobs anymore. So we're all retired right now. However, we're giving to the students. We want them to be in a position that we did not get into.
Yes.
But we know they can do the work. So that's why we're doing that.
You know, you're so busy doing so many things. I don't know where you get the energy from, but you get it. But do you happen to find time for hobbies or anything? What do you like to do to relax?
I like to plant flowers. And I do that right now at 85 in my yard. But I got smart this year. I began to put in the roses that will grow year after year without me having to replant them every year.
Yes.
But I do that. I work in the yard. I still do the housework. And then I have sons that own the farm. And they must have meals. So I make meals that they can eat every day at the house.
Okay.
So there's a lot to be done. And when you're on a farm, you have animals on the farm.
Yes.
Then there's work always to be done. Of course, I don't go in the field to do the work. I just work around the house and in the yard. It's all good.
Well, you're probably still reading too, aren't you?
Oh, yes. I have a reading system that it's hard for a lot of people to understand. How do you read from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock? So I normally start reading around 2 a.m. And I read till about 6. And I stop reading at 6 because there's a prayer meeting I'm involved in at 6 o'clock. And that's over 6:30, 6:45. And then I go to sleep. And sleep for a while, unless I have a meeting. If I have a meeting, then I make myself get to that meeting. No problem whatsoever.
Are you still active in ministry?
Yes. I'm a member of Living Word Church of Faith, and we have a housing here in Alachua. And I do several things that's appointed to me to do. And I'm in charge of the Holy Communion once a month, and whatever else the pastor requires that I do. Pastor is my son, and I respect my son tremendously so. I have 2 sons that are ministers. I respect them tremendously so, and I'm just like every other member of the congregation except what's given to me to do. And that works well. So.
You mentioned you grew up United Methodist.
Yes.
Then you were licensed and ordained AME.
Yes.
And your church that you're involved with now, are they in the same denominations that you came up with?
No.
Okay.
I grew up United Methodist because that was the church of my parents. And from there, I married Moses Singleton, and he was an AME. So that means that I changed the AME to be with my husband, with the children. And I retired from the AME church. And with that, I joined my son in an open ministry.
Okay.
But still active. I'm still very active. And my son that's in South Carolina is a pastor in the AME church. So I go there every year to support him with the ministry. So it's all busy. It's all good.
It is all good. It's all good. It keeps you busy.
It does, and I enjoy that.
Amen. You know, with all of your vast array of experiences, what have been some of the most challenging, difficult times, and how have you dealt with those?
I guess if I look at challenge, I'd look at challenge now in the face of what's going on for students that's in the school system, because that is a tremendous backdrop to what I'm accustomed to. Okay. Because for us, it was, you get up, you're ready to go to school, you get all of your work accomplished, you get back home, you do what's necessary. And then, of course, the next day you do the same thing. But now there appears to be a lack of parental involvement. And I say that hurtingly so. Because children are now in households now, they're with their great-grandparents, or their grandparents.
Right.
And sometimes the parents, and they're not in a household setup family-wise. And as a result of that, they are not doing as well. I know they can do better because in all of this, I have also, and I have to change this because it keeps slipping. In all of this, I tutored kids while I was working. On the job, I would leave for lunchtime and go tutor students, walk them through things on Saturday and whatever, just introducing them to various things they were not accustomed to. And sure, it takes time.
Yes.
But if it takes time to go to the supermarket, I can take a kid with me to the supermarket and teach them how to buy.
Yes.
And teach them what's important. And share with them that because you would like to have it, it may not be something you can afford right now, but let me show you how we work toward it. And so with this dollar I'm going to give you today, you save this dollar, and then the next time we come, you'll have $2 or $3. And that gift that you'd like to have from the supermarket, you're able to buy it. And that begins to teach them how you plan for life. And we do that with children because many times it doesn't happen, and I don't know the why. So.
That is so true, and that's a valuable skill to learn how to plan.
It is.
And learn deferred gratification.
Surely it is, yes.
Were there some other challenges?
I don't call them challenges.
Okay.
I do share them. I was in the community. I still work in the community. Sometime back, and this was in 2007, is giving back to the community. Reverend Geraldine H Singleton goes the extra mile to help others.
Yes.
I was working in the hospitals, and working in the hospital, it meant that I was working with families. Many times, some of the family members did not have persons that supported them, and some did have support. But it's always good to be able to have a word for someone when they're ill.
Yes.
Because many times, and of course now we're not able to do that as well. However, in the past, it was good to walk in the room with a mother with a baby, and the baby is ill, and to just say a prayer and give that person some security in what can happen, because, and I will say this, and I'll say it in the way, because the Lord is the enabler, not we ourselves. And so that was a part of my work, and so I was given many honors for this. I was on a 24-hour schedule. Don't ask me how and why, but my calls would come through at night. I lived in Monteoka. I would get up and get dressed and get to the hospital because I'd given that commitment. And I always found it to be helpful for the parents, because if you're sitting there and you don't have anybody to come in, and someone walk in that's interested in your son or daughter, and also you, it makes a difference.
Yes,
so
it
that's
does.
how I dealt with that 24-hour schedule.
Yes, it does. Were you serving as a chaplain?
I was serving as a chaplain.
Which hospital?
At first, it was at our hospital, Alachua General Hospital. And then, of course, when that one went down, I went for just a little while at Shands. Shands was too big for me for what they want you to cover. Because at the age of, I think I was getting 75, 76. I couldn't do that much walking anymore.
Yes.
So then I had to limit that for myself. So then, I did not stay there in the long term. But, and I also worked for a while at hospice.
Okay.
So that's a volunteer area as well. So I'll go there.
Which one of those areas of chaplaincy did you enjoy the most?
Well, first of all, I will say people, the persons, where they were with how they were worshiping or not worshiping. So I would try to meet their need, not so much as mine, but their need. Because, and I will go to one specific information. There was an incident, the guy was just so angry that he hit a window and killed that window. You know, he was just so mad because he wasn't in place, and I guess it was anger. And it was hard for me to understand how he could have that much anger and he was not in place. Because if you are, unless there's a job, unless there's some reason you cannot be there, then you can be in place. And you can't be so angry with the institution that you're going to break up things because you are not in place. So that's one of the occasions I dealt with. And I dealt one or two other occasions that because I'm African American, so therefore I'm not to understand what happens in the other church areas. Right. I don't have but one Bible. Well, I have several divisions of the Bible. And so it teaches everything we need to know. So if I know where you are, 9 times out of 10, I'm able to assist you with what you're doing. And so that, again, keeps me on track. Because if I'm not on track, then it means that I'm not able to help the people I'd like to help.
Right. Do you still do that at some point?
I do.
Okay.
And I do that now personally, if there is a death in a family. And I have the need to send flowers to a family member. If someone is ill at home or someone is ill, if the Lord speaks to me and tells me this is what I need to do, I will send flowers. And I do that because flowers are beautiful at death and those situations. But sometimes we need a gift that helps us make the day.
Yes.
And so if he says flowers need to go, I must get those out. And so there are little things that I'm able to do now. And of course, make telephone calls to persons. And I have some friends right now with the system as it is now. I'm making many calls. And it's just to assist them. And it also assists me as well. Because we all have large families. We have children and grandchildren and so forth and so on, other family members. So yes. And I've learned not to cry.
Why is that?
If I feel that my heart is breaking, if I'm crying, I don't think I can help them get to the next level.
Okay.
And I do know tears come, but we have our places.
Yes.
So I've learned to keep the tears back until I get to the place that I can shed them.
Okay, privately.
Yes.
Yes, okay, okay. Now, shifting gears a little, be interested to hear your view on the current political climate in America.
Preferably, I will stay away from that.
Okay.
Because I think my lack of knowledge, I'll say it like that, and the things that I have developed over the years would not come into a place privately or whatever. So I just sort of back away from that.
Are you still active politically? Do you still vote in elections?
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, absolutely. And in fact, I've been a worker at the polls for many years.
In addition to other things.
Yes. And this is the only year, this year, the only years I have not worked in the polls.
Wow.
And 6 o'clock in the morning, we're there until whatever time in the evening. But I have elected not to do that now.
Okay. You're backing off a little now. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the Black Lives Movement?
Let me mention my thoughts on movement, period. Okay? That includes everybody. Because within every system, you have people that get along and people that do not get along. I believe if we're doing what we're to do, honestly, we have to be honest. I cannot take a seat if I'm not in the situation I feel is honest. I will not be involved. And in my past histories, I have met with occasions when honesty was not foremost.
Okay.
And when I find it's not foremost, then I need to back out. Okay. Because my son said that I can be very, very vocal in what I need to say. So it's to my advantage to sit back.
Okay.
But I do watch the situation.
Okay. How do you feel about the disparity between the wealthy and those who have less? Especially in America, we have such a large gap, and it seems to be getting larger.
I'd have to ask who's wealthy. That's my first question. How did you become wealthy? Did you grow up with a family that had money and just put it in your budget? Or did you actually have to work to get to a situation where you became healthy and wealthy? I do have a problem when we have income and we do not use that in the manner it should be used. Okay, what are you saying? If my children need shoes, I don't need a party dress. If my children need to get to a system to play in a game or whatever, I need to be able to help get them there. So I do know some of the families lose their places of employment. I do know people lose their homes. And I do know from the country, and I'm speaking specifically from Brooker and Montioka, we had homes that students have moved into Gainesville, into low-rent housing that put them into paying rent when they had their homes in the country.
Wow.
Maybe it didn't have what they wanted there. Maybe they didn't have the transportation to drive into Gainesville. You can always take a ride or catch a ride.
That's right.
So we are not keeping the property that we own. And when you don't keep what you own, you're always renting.
Yes.
And it doesn't come from the people with the more money. It comes from the one with the less money.
Yes.
Now, I mentioned that we're farmers. And anytime you're farming, they're expensive. If you have cattle, you're going to either grow the hay or you're going to buy it.
Right.
So will the cattle die because you don't do that? Or are you going to grow or buy? So we make decisions. So I'm not assuming that all of us have money, but we have access to money.
Yes.
And we have to be very sure that we use that money or those monies the way they're to be used.
Exactly.
And that may not be a really good answer, but it's worked for me.
No, I wouldn't say it's good. It's not a good or bad answer, but it may not be a very popular answer, but it works.
Yes, it does
But
work.
it works. But it works.
We must plan.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And it's about setting priorities.
It is. And priorities grow as children grow because they're taught. And if they're taught what's right and taught to do what's right, now children are going to be children. Let's face that for real. They'll get with their friends and they don't want to believe anything you've said to them. But when they come back in the door, they remember they're back home.
Right.
But if it's taught, some of that is going to come through. And that's why you have children from this area, and I'll just call it this area, the Brook area, have done so well because they've kept those values, and having kept those values, their families have grown as a result of that.
Yes.
So I probably have, I have several families that have 5 and 6 children, and they're all college graduates. And their income was probably no more than mine. Well, you just plan for it.
Right.
So that's my take on that.
You plan and you prioritize based on what you value.
Yes.
Most definitely. Last but not least, you know, this COVID-19 pandemic has hit everybody, not only in the United States, but around the world. But how has it impacted you and your family?
I would say it has not impacted my family at this point. Okay? We've had our shots. We do not have visitors at our home. I love visiting, but this is not the right time because I don't know who perhaps didn't get their shots. Right. I don't know who has protected themselves. And being a pastor, a minister, it's difficult sometimes not to get to people that you'd like to get to.
Right.
But if their thought processes differ so much from mine, that's an area I don't need to be involved in.
Right.
And I don't mind telling them why I'm not involved. So I'm not going to hold back and say, I'm just not going to do that because you didn't do this or that. I cannot get involved because, for my reason, and give them my reason. So when I do that, I feel that is sufficient for right now. Mm-hmm. And will the change take place? I don't know. Because we have so many people that have decided they're fine as they are.
Yes. Yes.
When I look at the persons attending the whatever they attend, mm-hmm. and they're not, no bandages or what have you, it means that they don't care about me and not about themselves as well.
It does send a message, a very powerful message.
Powerful message.
Yes, the mask sends a message whether or not you open your mouth or not.
Yes.
Is your family coping the same way, your children and your grandchildren?
They are. We have birthdays. And actually, with our children right now and our grandchildren, we're not doing visiting like we normally do. Mm-hmm. I don't know how we're going to take care of the holidays coming up because we normally have huge family get-togethers. We have not done that recently. Our children are in schools, mm-hmm. children are here in schools, we're in places, we don't want to infect our homes.
Yes. So
right now, we are not having the family get-togethers and the Easter holidays and the Thanksgiving holidays and all those holidays families get together. But that shall come back. It's going to come back.
Yes, and plus there are other means, thank goodness, mm-hmm. for technology. You can Zoom.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, with all that you've shared, and wow, you've packed a lot into 85 years. You really have. And an inspiration to many when they say they can't, and you mm-hmm. live in witness that you can.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would like to share that we have not talked about?
I don't know. I do want to mention, of course, with the educational background we talked about, and employment history as well. Okay. Because I retired in 31 years from Santa Fe Community College, and then I went to work for the Alachua County Tax Office. And I just retired from there at 85.
At 85?
Yes.
Okay.
So actually I retired in 2003 from Santa Fe Community College, and I just retired in 2020 from the Alachua County Tax Office. And of course, the school board and all those places I've been, I've retired and so forth and so on. And one area I didn't mention, over the years, I worked as a senior person responsible to the Regional Director's Office from the state of Florida that was instituted to assist people that were being misused with putting roofs on, or people taking money from them and mistreating them, and whatever was happening. Okay. So I was responsible for that area through the Alachua County Sheriff's Office.
Was that all type of abuse, or just senior abuse and fraud?
We were looking at seniors most often mm-hmm. because the fraud would come sometimes and many times from within. Mm-hmm. And with that, we would look into where it was coming from. And I can't think of anything else. I went over a lot of things, and I can't think of anything else. A lot of honors programs, and those happen when you're working a lot. You get honors here and there and everywhere, and that's well and good. And some of the persons now that's running for office, I would probably be a little bit involved with that. Okay. Because that's something I do. And if they ask for it, or if I volunteer, I would be involved in that.
Wow. I can truly say, with your vast experiences, education, and all the other things, quite a phenomenal woman. And still, you're still ready for whatever else comes next.
Oh, yes. Yes, I am.
Well, indeed, Reverend Singleton, it's been a pleasure to interview you and spend this time with you and learn more about you, your reality, your life experiences.
I do have a question or two, Reverend Singleton, if I may. You mentioned that you got into education. Can you tell us the reason behind why you chose education?
I chose education because that was my family background, from my dad's family. And even though my dad wasn't able to go to college, that was just a family trend. And also with my mother, some of her brothers and sisters are also educators and pastors. So it was just a natural trend. We saw it, we were involved with it, so it was just there, born into the system. Yes.
And I guess my second question is, you mentioned that your mother worked at UF, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about her experiences at UF? What was her experiences? How was she treated at UF? You said she worked for many years, correct?
She did, but at that particular time, brown was brown. And as a result of that, most of their work was had to do with cleaning the buildings. And I just want to push back and say the desk my mother cleaned in Tigard Hall was my desk as a supervisor. So the changes took place. And when my mother was working, I was 14, 15 years old. If she couldn't work, she didn't get paid. So guess who worked? I did at the University of Florida as a young person, not even 15 years old. But my mother needed to be paid. So the reverse changed gradually, but changed. And I was a part of that change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this time.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Blessings to you.
Yes. Thank you.